The moment everything breaks, you won't recognize the moment until it hurts. But when it does, really does, you'll know. This message was always here. You just weren't ready to see it until now. There's a strange kind of silence that comes before transformation. It doesn't announce itself with a trumpet or a lightning strike. It's more like a whisper in the hallway after the door has closed. A gut feeling in the middle of an ordinary afternoon. A moment of truth that looks like failure, heartbreak, burnout, or just exhaustion. You feel it in your bones before your brain has words for it. We all get to this point differently. Maybe you've just gone through a breakup that shattered the version of you that you thought was enough. Maybe the job you've poured years into now feels like a prison with glass walls. You can see freedom, but you can't touch it. Or maybe you're staring at your reflection and realizing you don't even recognize the person in the mirror anymore. Whatever brought you here, one thing is certain. You didn't find this by accident. You see, this moment, this message, this voice was always here. But we only hear it when the noise dies down, when the distractions fall away, when the things we clung to so tightly finally slip through our fingers and we're left asking, what now? It's in that vulnerable silence that change becomes possible. But here's the truth. Change doesn't begin with action, it begins with awareness. And awareness is brutal. It shows you everything you've avoided. It shines a light on the habits that once protected you but now keep you stuck. It points to the friendships, environments, and beliefs that no longer align with the person you're becoming. And it doesn't care how successful, liked, or busy you are. It cuts through the noise. Change doesn't wait for convenience, it waits for readiness. And you, whether you know it yet or not, are ready. Let's pause there for a second. You might be thinking, but I don't feel ready. I feel overwhelmed, confused, alone. Good, that's not a sign you're broken. It's proof you're awake. The moment you start to question everything is the moment you begin to see. And seeing, while painful, is also powerful because you can't unsee what your soul has already recognized. This isn't about having a plan, it's about having a pulse. Are you breathing? Are you still standing, even if just barely? Then you're in the perfect place to begin because rock bottom isn't the end, it's the floor you build from. Some people need 10 signs before they change. Others need one catastrophe. But the timing is never random. You find this message when you need it, not when you want it. There's a reason you're here right now. Not a year ago, not yesterday, not someday. Let's break something down that most people never tell you about change. It doesn't start with goals, it starts with grief. You grieve the version of you that settled, that stayed quiet, that played small. You grieve lost time, failed attempts, wasted years. You grieve the old identity that kept you safe, even if it was killing your spirit. But after grief comes clarity. You start asking questions you were too distracted to ask before. Who am I when I'm not performing for approval? What would I do if I wasn't afraid? What would life look like if I stopped waiting for permission? That's when things begin to shift. Tiny changes at first. You start saying no to things that drain you. You stop chasing people who don't value you. You spend more time alone, not out of loneliness, but out of intention. You stop avoiding the mirror and start facing it. It's awkward, it's scary, it's messy, but it's real. And real is the birthplace of transformation. You might lose people during this time, people who loved the old you, the version who said yes when you meant no, who made yourself small so others could shine, who never rocked the boat. But if someone only loves the version of you that betrays yourself, they don't love you. You're not here to be liked, you're here to be whole. And wholeness requires honesty, even if it's uncomfortable. Look around. Everything you're feeling right now, the chaos, the loss, the pain, is not punishment. It's a summons, a sacred invitation. It's the fire that burns off who you're not. So who you really are can emerge. But don't rush it. Change doesn't come with a deadline. It comes with a decision. Not one made in a burst of motivation, but one whispered in the quiet. I can't keep living like this. I don't know what's next, but I know it's not this. I deserve more, and I'm willing to face the fire to get there. So if you're here now, reading or listening to this, congratulations. Not because you've arrived, but because you've awakened. And awakening is everything. You'll see this when you're ready to change, and now you've seen it. Let's begin. The death of the old identity. Change doesn't start with becoming someone new. It begins with burying who you're not. Most of us people think change is about becoming, but real change, the kind that cracks your soul open and rebuilds it from the inside out, that begins with unbecoming, letting go of every false layer you've worn just to survive. Let's be honest. You've built a version of yourself around what the world rewarded. Be agreeable, be productive, be attractive, be nice, be perfect. So you became who you needed to be, not to grow, but to cope. You smiled when you were hurting. You agreed when you wanted to scream. You said yes, so others wouldn't leave. You achieved so no one would ask what you're really running from. And it worked for a while. You got by, you fit in, you were praised. You played the part so well, even you forgot it was a role. But deep down, you knew something was off. Something sacred was missing. You couldn't name it, but you could feel it. That feeling, it was your truth knocking. And now it's not knocking, it's banging on the door. Here's what no one tells you about change. It's not just uncomfortable. It's lonely. Why? Because you're not just losing old habits. You're losing old selves, versions of you that your entire life was built around. And when those identities start to fall away, it can feel like everything is crumbling. And in a way it is, but not because you're broken, because the lie is. You're grieving a self that was never the real you. And grief is messy, nonlinear, and deeply human. One day you'll feel empowered. The next, you'll want to run back to the familiar. That's okay. It's all part of the process. Just don't stop. Because on the other side of letting go is liberation. Let's get real. Change is not aesthetic. It's not about vision boards or gym memberships or morning routines. It's emotional surgery. It's staring at the parts of yourself you've ignored for years and saying, I see you and I won't hide you anymore. It's telling your younger self, you don't have to perform for love anymore. It is sitting in your discomfort, not because you enjoy pain, but because you trust what it's leading to. This is where you begin to separate from the crowd. Because most people want change without loss. They want growth without grief. They want transformation without truth. But you've already lost too much pretending to be someone you're not. You've sacrificed sleep, sanity, authenticity, peace, all for a life that looked good on the outside but felt hollow inside. Now it's different. You're no longer are asking, what do people want me to be? You're asking, who was I before the world told me who to be? That question was the beginning of rebirth. Here's what to expect. People will question you. They'll say you've changed, as if that's a bad thing. They'll pull out the old blueprint and say, but this is who you were. And you'll have to look them in the eye and say, that version of me doesn't live here anymore. They won't understand. Some will try to shame you. Some will feel abandoned. Some will try to guilt you back into the role you've finally outgrown. But none of that is your responsibility. You are not responsible for the comfort of others when it costs you your truth. You are not responsible for explaining your growth to people committed to misunderstanding you. You are only responsible for honoring the voice inside that says, keep going. This time, we're doing it for us. Let me tell you something powerful. You do not need anyone's permission to outgrow who you used to be. You don't need to defend your evolution. You don't need to water yourself down to keep the peace. You don't need to shrink to stay digestible. Change is messy. Growth is disruptive. And authenticity, it's a rebellion. But here's the beautiful part. The more you shed, the lighter you become. The lies get quieter. The masks fall off. The people who stay see you, not the polished version, not the people pleaser, not the performance, you. And that, being truly seen, is worth everything you've had to release. So here's your reminder. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not behind. You are on time for your own life. You're not broken. You're breaking free. You're not starting over. You're starting true. And you didn't stumble on this message by chance. You were called to it. You'll see this when you're ready to change. You saw it. You stayed. Now keep walking. The war between who you were and who you're becoming. There's a moment where your old self begs you to stay, and your future self whispers, please don't. Change isn't a single decision. It's 1,000 quiet battles. It's waking up each day and choosing to not go back, even when going back feels easier, safer, more comfortable. Even when the old you calls you home with familiar lies like, this is who you are. But deep down, you know, it's not. You've already left. Not physically, maybe, not yet. But mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You've outgrown your cage. And the scariest part of change isn't the unknown ahead. It's the empty space in between. That in between is where most people give up. Because the old life is still calling, but the new one hasn't fully arrived. So you start questioning everything. Was I wrong? Is this even worth it? Maybe I was better off before. Let me be clear. That voice is not your intuition. It's your survival system panicking. Because for years, it only knew how to operate under pressure, pain, people-pleasing, perfectionism. Now that you're breaking the pattern, the system thinks you're dying, when in fact you're finally starting to live. Let's talk about the battle. This war within you, it's not weakness. It's evidence of growth. You're not confused. You're in transition, and transitions are never clean. You'll have days when you feel unstoppable, and days you don't want to get out of bed. You'll take 3 steps forward, then 1 hard fall back. You'll question your worth, your vision, your timing. You'll crave the numbness of your old habit, not because they made you happy, but because they made you feel less. And that's the catch. When you choose change, you start feeling everything. The grief, the rage, the shame, the forgotten joy, the buried dreams, all of it comes rushing back because you're no longer running. You're finally facing. That's the real work of change. Not the highlight reel, not the Instagram quotes. It's the quiet work, the inner war, the moment by moment decisions to stay awake. Here's what no one sees. You're sitting in your car outside your job, breathing through the urge to quit, but staying for now because you're building something bigger. You're scrolling past messages from people who once had access to you, but now you protect your peace like a sacred garden. You're listening to your thoughts instead of silencing them with distraction. You're moving slower, speaking less, thinking deeper. That's not depression, that's rebirth. You're not fading, you're forming. And while the world might not celebrate this version of you yet, you should. Because anyone can start over when it's easy, but it takes courage to keep going when it's not. This war inside isn't meant to destroy you. It's meant to purify you, to burn away every false identity, to expose every unconscious agreement, to peel off the masks you didn't even know you were wearing. And yes, it will hurt. But pain is not the enemy. Avoidance is. Because avoidance keeps you stuck. Avoidance says, stay in the job you hate. Avoidance says, like, keep texting them even if they drain you. Avoidance says, don't speak your truth. It might cause conflict. But you You've chosen something different. You've chosen to walk into the fire, not because you enjoy the burn, but because you trust what's on the other side. Here's the truth. The version of you who's trying to emerge, they're not weak, they're not dramatic, they're not crazy, they're real. And they're tired of waiting for you to believe in them. They're waiting for you to stop negotiating with fear, to stop looking for shortcuts, to stop asking people who are afraid of change to validate your growth. That voice inside, the one urging you to keep going, that's your becoming. And becoming takes time. So give yourself grace. Rest if you need to. Cry if you must. Scream into the void if it helps, but don't quit. You're not behind, you're breaking through. And when you look back at this moment, this exact chapter, this exact struggle, it won't be with regret, it will be with reverence. Because this is the moment you chose you, fully, finally. No more running, no more hiding, no more pretending. This time, you don't need to prove anything. You don't need to perform for anyone. You don't need a permission slip to rise. You just need one truth to hold on to. You'll see this when you're ready to change. And you saw it. Now step forward. The war may not be over, but you're winning. Every day you refuse to go back. Becoming unrecognizable and finally free. One day you'll look in the mirror and realize you don't recognize yourself. And for the first time, that won't scare you. It will set you free. There comes a point in every transformation when you no longer relate to who you used to be, the way you spoke, the things you tolerated, the people you allowed access to you, the dreams you chased just to feel worthy. It all feels distant. And yet, that old version of you wasn't fake. It wasn't weak. It wasn't wrong. It was necessary. That you was trying, that you was surviving, that you got you here. But now you're not interested in survival anymore. You're interested in freedom. And freedom requires evolution. There's something beautifully terrifying about becoming unrecognizable. You stop laughing at things that once distracted you. You stop explaining your silence. You stop making yourself small just to fit into rooms that never respected your size. You start walking differently, speaking with more intention. You notice how your voice shakes a little less when you speak your truth. You listen to your instincts, not just hear them, but trust them. You're shedding layers, not because you hate who you were, but because you finally love yourself enough to stop hiding. This is not reinvention. This is reclamation. You're not becoming someone new. You're returning to someone ancient, someone buried under years of programming, expectation, and fear. People might say you've changed. That's fine, you have changed. You've learned to say no without guilt. You've learned to rest without shame. You've learned to exist without apologizing. That's not ego. That's alignment. You're not playing life on defense anymore. You're living on purpose. And with that, something interesting begins to happen. You become magnetic, not in a superficial, curated, social media kind of way. In a soul deep, I don't know what it is about you, but I feel it kind of way. People feel your peace before you speak. They feel your energy shift a room. They feel your presence because it's real. That's the power of alignment. That's the power of truth. But here's what you must remember. Not everyone will celebrate this version of you. Some will call you too much. Others will say you've changed. A few may even walk away. Not because you've wronged them, but because your growth reminds them of their stagnation. Let them go. You're not here to maintain other people's comfort zones. You're here to honor your evolution. Growth will always trigger those who are afraid to do the same. So don't water yourself down to remain digestible. Don't lower your frequency just to stay relatable. You didn't come this far to play small again. This is the part of the journey where you begin to dream again, not with fear, but with clarity. You're no longer chasing validation. You're building a life that reflects your soul, not your wounds. You find yourself asking deeper questions. What brings me peace, not status? Who am I without the need to prove? What does success look like when I define it for myself? And with every answer, you start creating from a different place, from joy, from alignment, from truth. You stop needing a plan that makes sense to others. You start trusting a vision that only you can see. Because the path you're walking now, it's not paved, it's created, one step at a time by your own courage. Let me be clear. This new version of you won't be palatable to everyone, but they're not supposed to get it because this wasn't their vision. It was yours. And you'll know you've stepped into it when peace feels more important than being right. Solitude feels more nourishing than fake company. Purpose feels more natural than performance. That's when you know you didn't just change, you came home. So if you're in that space now, where the old life doesn't fit but the new one isn't fully built yet, trust this. You're not lost. You're being reshaped. You're not broken. You're being rewired, and you're not alone. You're becoming aligned with a version of you that's been waiting for this exact moment. You'll see this when you're ready to change. And now, not only do you see it, you embody it. You're no longer trying to escape the old you. You're walking with the wisdom of every version that came before. And with every step, you're building a life that finally feels like yours. Eh, uh, the becoming, living the life that called you. At first, you wonder if you're ready to change. Then one day, you realize you already did. This is it. The moment when all the silence and all the chaos, all the healing finally starts to make sense. It's not that your life magically transformed overnight, it's that you did. You're no longer asking permission, no longer explaining your worth, no longer holding space for people who never held it for you. You walk differently now, not because you're pretending to be strong, but because you are. Because every battle you fought behind closed doors sharpened you. Every time you sat with pain instead of distracting yourself, it deepened you. Every time you stayed, even when the old life begged you to come back, it matured you. You're no longer reaching for the life you want. You're living it, breath by breath, decision by decision. You became what you once didn't believe was possible. Someone who trusts their own light more than their old limits. Let's get one thing clear. This version of you didn't come easy. You had to mourn, you had to separate, you had to unlearn decades of stories about who you were allowed to be. You had to say no without apologizing. You had to sit in rooms you used to chase and realize they didn't feel right anymore. You had to lose people, roles, identities, and still choose yourself. That was the cost. But look at the return. You're grounded, or you're present. You're not easily swayed by noise or doubt because you know who you are now. Not perfectly, not completely, but clearly enough to keep walking with purpose. And in a world built on confusion and distraction, that clarity is a revolution. This is where your story shifts from survival to legacy. You no longer live to prove, you live to create. You no longer chase validation, you offer value. You no longer need to be seen because you see yourself. And from that place of inner wholeness, you begin to serve in ways you never imagined. You inspire without trying. You love without losing yourself. You show others what's possible, not by preaching, but by being. Your life becomes a living permission slip, a silent invitation that says, you can heal, you can change, you can rise. And you'll notice something else. You stop fearing setbacks because you understand now that failure was never failure. It was redirection. It was information. It was initiation. You start welcoming the challenges, not because you enjoy the struggle, but because you trust your capacity to transcend it. You've done it before. And the best part? You've barely scratched the surface of what you're capable of. So, what now? Now, you build. You build the business. You write the book. You set the boundary. You take the risk. You make the move. You have the conversation. You lead the life. Not because you feel 100% ready, but because you're no longer waiting for perfect conditions. You realize now, change doesn't come when it's convenient. It comes when it's necessary. And your soul has decided it's time. You'll still have doubts. You'll still have fears, but they don't run the show anymore. Your inner voice is louder than your inner critic. Your vision is stronger than your fear. And your truth, it no longer whispers. It roars. Because you know who you are now. And no one, not even your old self, can take that away. So let me leave you with this. You didn't just watch this video by accident. You didn't stumble across this message randomly. No. Your soul brought you here to remind you of what you already know, that you're ready, that you're capable, that you're enough. Not someday, not when things are perfect, but right now. This is your life. This is your moment. This is your becoming. You'll see this when you're ready to change. You saw it. You stayed. You rose. Now go and live the life that's been waiting for you to arrive.